Hi guys, today I'm going to be making a pumpkin bread. It has chocolate chips in it. It's from Sally's Baking Addiction. But while her recipe is amazing, I'm going to add a little bit of my spin to it and put a cream cheese glaze on top. So when the bread comes out of the oven and cools, we'll be drizzling like this cream cheese glaze. It'll cover the whole thing. It's going to be amazing. My brother already taste tested it, said it was great. So making it officially for all of you guys to try. So let's get started. So we're gonna get started first with the dry ingredients as always. One thing that I've been really into is using my scale. It gives a more accurate measurement and then you don't have to like keep everything eye level. So the first ingredient is flour. So it's 1 3/4 cups flour, also known as 220 grams. So I'm gonna measure it out with my scale. Okay. Next is a teaspoon of baking soda. Two teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Okay, then it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, cloves, and ginger, but if you don't have that, I didn't have that, you can use pumpkin pie spice, so I'm gonna use that instead and use 1 teaspoon of this. All set to go. A little heavy-handed, that's all right. More flavor. Okay, and then we need 3/4 teaspoons of salt to work with the baking soda. We don't have 3/4, so I usually just do 1/2, and then half of this guy. That's good. Okay, so that's it for our dry ingredients. So you're gonna whisk those together and put it to the side. Okay, now that the dry ingredients are prepared, I'm gonna work on the wet ingredients. So the first thing there are 2 large eggs. I don't know, sometimes I get shells and things, you know? Eggs are in there, then we gotta do 3/4 cup of granulated sugar or 150 grams. So I'm gonna use my scale. 3/4 cup of sugar, and then 1/2 cup of packed light or dark brown sugar. I always pick dark brown. I think it gives more flavor, especially when I make chocolate chip cookies. That's what makes the batter taste so good. Okay, so same thing here. We need 1/2 cup or 100 grams. So now we are gonna cream these together. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is add the pumpkin, which is basically a whole can, orange juice, and vegetable oil. So I'm gonna be putting the veggie oil and the orange juice together in here. So it is 1/2 cup of oil and 1/4 cup of orange juice. So I'm gonna do the orange juice first. Okay. We're good there. Then adding in the vegetable oil. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups or 340 grams, and this can is 425 grams. So I'm just gonna eyeball this guy and basically just put all of it in and leave a little bit. And you wanna make sure that you're getting the 100% pumpkin and not the pumpkin pie mix. So I'm gonna get these mixed. And while this is mixing, I'm gonna stream in the olive oil. I keep calling it olive oil, it's vegetable oil. I'm gonna stream in the veggie oil and the orange juice. All right, this is looking really good. So the last step is to combine the dry ingredients, the flour mixture we made earlier, with the wet ingredients. And it's really important not to overdo it. We just want to get it so everything is mixed in. That will give the best texture. What you want to do is make sure that you don't over mix it. You want to just mix everything until it's well combined so that you don't see any more flour specks, but you don't want to overdo it and like mix it for like 2 minutes. The less is better for this step. Okay, here we go. little spurt so the flour doesn't go everywhere. And we don't over mix it. And just let it go. Mix it until it's combined. And that is probably good enough. All right, that's it. Okay, the last step, let me just dump this in the sink. Scrape down the sides of the bowl, this way you get all your goodies here. And we're gonna add in chocolate chips into the mixture, and you don't wanna mix those in with the mixer, but we'll use our hands and a spatula to whisk it together. The recipe calls for a 2/3 cup of chocolate chips, but I kind of just eyeball this. I think sometimes more is better. I'm just going for it. That was half a bag, by the way. I used half last week when I made this. Didn't want you to think I just dumped in a whole bag, although, I mean, it wouldn't be terrible. The next step, we're gonna put the batter into our loaf pan. A trick that I like to do is put a little bit of water inside first. Literally just a teeny bit. Kind of whoosh it around in there. Trying to get on the floor. And dump it out. So it just has a little bit of water. And then take the parchment paper. This will help, one, the bread not sticking to the pan, and two, for like cleanup. It's amazing. The bread will come right out. You don't have to worry about scrubbing anything that's stuck. The water helps keep the paper down and keep its shape. So, little trick there. Okay, now I'm going to pour the batter into the pan. Okay, so this is gonna go in the oven for an hour at 350 degrees, but at about a half hour, you're gonna throw some aluminum foil on the top. This way the top doesn't get too burnt or brown. Okay, putting this in the oven. Okay, and I will be back with the glaze recipe while this bakes, but first I gotta wash all the dishes. Yay. Okay. So now we're gonna make the glaze for the pumpkin bread. It's a cream cheese glaze. You first start off with half of a block, I guess, of cream cheese and half a stick of butter, which is a 1/4 cup, and you have to soften them. So I put them both together in a bowl, threw them in the microwave, got them a little soft. So both of these are gonna go inside the mixing bowl. And I'm actually just gonna start mixing these up now so that they get really soft, and then I'm gonna add in vanilla and I'm gonna add in powdered sugar. Okay, and while those are mixing, whoops, measure out a teaspoon of vanilla. I always like a little extra. Okay, dump it in there. So if you've ever made cream cheese icing before, it's kind of the same thing, just not as much. And then we're gonna add the powdered sugar, let that sit, and then when we're ready to put it on the bread, it's gonna be like thick, like icing. So we throw it in the microwave, melt it, so it's like liquidy, I guess, and then it's gonna just cover the cake and it's gonna set really well and it's gonna be delicious. So we're gonna start off with 1 cup of powdered sugar, and this I will put in at stages because it's gonna go everywhere. This I know. Okay, put in a little bit, and if you feel like the icing is too thick or too thin, you could just add some more powdered sugar if it's too thin, or if you want it to be less thick, you could just add a little bit of water or milk. Also, if you're making this bread and you want to keep it dairy-free, since all the ingredients in the bread is dairy-free, you could make a glaze with just powdered sugar and water. That is like a true glaze. instead of this like melted glaze that we're making. That way it adds a little extra. You can drizzle some on the top, make it really pretty, and it's still dairy free. Add in the rest here. All right. It smells so good. Okay, and that is our cream cheese icing slash soon to be glaze. I'm going to transfer it to a Pyrex mixing glass. That way, when we're ready to put it on top of the bread, we can throw this guy in the microwave, melt it, and then we can pour it easily with the spout. Usually if I'm doing a glaze with water or milk and sugar, I like to keep it thicker, and then I use like a squeeze bottle to do a nice little design. But for this, we're just going to melt it and just pour it all over the cake. Scrape it all, but you gotta leave a little for yourself. This is the soon to be glaze. Right now it's a cream cheese frosting. So when the pumpkin bread comes out of the oven, we're gonna throw this in the microwave, and then we'll be able to pour it nicely all over the pumpkin, and we'll be done. So stay tuned for the fun part. Okay, so this guy just came out of the oven and it looks amazing. It usually cooks for about an hour. If your oven is a little bit less hot than mine, you might need to go for a couple extra minutes, but when the edges get brown, that's how you know. And then you can also like push your finger on it, and if it bounces back, it's also good. You can always stick a toothpick in as well, and you want to make sure that it comes out clean. But this is great. And the next step is to take the glaze, and we're gonna throw it in the microwave and get it all nice and gooey, and then drizzle it over. I'm kind of tempted to take it out of its pan, but I think I better wait, because when I do that, it falls apart because I'm impatient. So hang tight, and then when this cools, I'll show you how I do the glaze and drizzle it over, and then it'll be ready to eat. So that's it. All right, so I'm gonna take it out of its container. I'm just gonna pull on the edges really gently, and as you can see, it pops right out. I didn't have to use a knife or anything like that, and the inside is fairly clean, so maybe that way you can see it. So it makes cleanup really easy, so hopefully you like my little trick there. All right, so final step, we're gonna be putting the icing glaze that we made earlier. Gonna throw this in the microwave, and then I've got a few little tools here. This is a cookie rack I'm gonna be using, and a cookie sheet. So I'm gonna take the rack and put it down first, and then I'm gonna put the bread on top. That way when we do the glaze, there's something to catch it all. And actually, I'm gonna put the paper down. Let me grab this first. Put this on the rack. This way, hopefully, we can just take the paper right off of the cookie sheet and throw the whole thing away for an easier cleanup. Okay, so after about a minute in the microwave, you want to stir everything together and make sure that you don't have chunks, which is a word I hate, so I guess we'll just say pieces of butter. You don't want any butter in your icing. Okay, ready to go. And again, I put it in a Pyrex just because it has a spout, so it makes pouring it easier. If you just did it in a bowl, that's totally cool too. And then you just kind of go for it. Now this is ready to eat. However, if you want to wait for the icing to get like a little bit of like a shell, or like a harder, like it, what's a good word for that? Like when it congeals, I guess. You could do that, or you could serve it right away. Another thing to do is have your bread ready to go, and if you're having guests over, you could throw the icing in the microwave and then pour it over, and then everyone can have a piece of the bread served warm. So hopefully you love it. Let me know what you think. I can't wait to take a piece of this. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.